From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going solo this week, and my name is Bill. And we have a guest. We have a guest from Alpinestars. He is responsible for all of North American sales, and his name is Fabrice Kutiba. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, we saw a posting on Facebook, and we've been trying to get Alpinestars on for a while, and you were kind enough to say, "Hey, I've got a little bit of time, and we're going to take advantage of you and skip right into the meat of the podcast, if that's okay."
Absolutely. Let's get right at it, right? No time. Right. No time is the present. Let's do it.
We're race cars. We're supposed to do this fast, right? So you had a posting involving, let's start with racing suits, and you were curious as to what everybody's activities were in terms of choosing a suit, what type of certifications they were looking for, how they cared for them, and lifespan. And especially one thing that caught my attention was potential for needing to replace them with a certain amount of timing. So maybe we should just kind of discuss that from a high level if we could.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm always trying to understand in North America, what people sort of go by, what is the consensus of, what information is out there, right? Because I think there's a lot of disinformation, and unfortunately, the good and bad of social media, people read things and they can take them for fact, and people have opinions, and they should be treated as such. And I try and educate people and, tell them, do your research, right? I mean, that's the most important thing. An educated decision is the best decision. So don't take what you read on a post or a forum or a chat group as fact just because someone's on there and they're posting a lot.
Yep. So obviously you buy one suit and it lasts forever. Is that the case?
I wish that was the case. If it was, I'd be out of business, but unfortunately it's not.
So I guess one of the questions we've always had was a one-piece suit versus a two-piece suit. Is there a benefit of either or both?
I prefer a one-piece suit. I know it's not always the standard here in the U.S. when, there's different disciplines of motorsport that the suits are being used in. I know, like drag racing, there's a lot of two-piece suits. Some of the stock car dirt track stuff guys want to wear two-piece suits for whatever reason that may be. So it really just kind of depends on what you're doing. We as a company only manufacture one-piece suits. We always have. It's not to say we may do something in those other sectors in the future, but the requirements are different and things like that. So, we're always looking to innovate, but at this time we just make a one-piece suit, and we find that it seems to work the best.
Is that from a fashion perspective or from a function perspective?
I think it's a function perspective. Obviously, it's form. I should say function probably follows form here, right? We want to make sure our products are the safest in the industry, and we're always pushing the envelope in inventing and coming up with new technologies and new applications on how to keep drivers safer should they be involved in a fire.
And besides there being a fashionable function, and in the end, the reason we're wearing a suit is for fire safety. So that probably should be at the top of the list if you could put it there. There seems to be 2 or 3 different certifications for the suits. Could you kind of describe them and compare them maybe?
Yeah. So our suits are certified to the latest FIA standards, as well as the latest SFI standards. And the FIA standard is the 8856/2018. And then there's the SFI 3.4. And those are currently in auto racing, at least outside of drag racing, the highest standards, that you'll find in Formula One and in NASCAR.
Okay, so we actually do get to use the equipment that the big boys use in this case. So that's a
Absolutely.
refresh.
I mean, I think, it's important to point out that, the products that we sell are exactly the same as the products that the professional athletes use.
Mhm,
It's not like they're wearing something else that, as a consumer, you can't buy. For instance, our Hypertech suit, the Hypertech V2 is exactly the same suit that's used in Formula One. You know, our printed suits, the Tech Vision program, is what the NASCAR guys are using in the top levels. So whether it's endurance racing in WEC, Formula One, rally, NASCAR, down to club racing, it's
mhm.
you buy the stuff that the pros would do, and it's kind of a nice thing. You don't really get that in other sports.
Well, I know doing the research because we've got a contest where we're trying to get in shape over the winter, and my reward is if I meet my target, I can buy a new suit, which would be refreshing and probably overdue. But you seem to have, I almost want to call them tiers. You kind of have the budget entry level kind of suit, and then you have several, and then you've got the top of the line. Could we kind of describe those for our audience a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, entry level, would be kind of our Knoxville line of suits. It's a three-layer suit, entry level in terms of price point. And
Right.
and I want to clarify, entry level for us is not necessarily entry level for everyone else. I mean, a lot of our entry level performs at a higher standard than some of the other brands that are out there and products that are on the market.
Hmm.
And doing your research is key. But I'll start, and I'll kind of tear it up, right? So we start with Knoxville, then we go to GP Race, then we go to, I'm sorry, we start with Knoxville, we go to Adam, then we go to GP Race, GP Pro Comp, Stella GP Pro Comp, which is a women's suit, and then we go to the GP Tech V3, which you'll find a lot of the NASCAR guys are wearing. The endurance drivers tend to like. And then the Hypertech V2 is the Formula One inspired suit. Doesn't have pockets, doesn't have a belt, but it is the lightest suit that we make and the highest technology in terms of its performance.
And then, since you know your product specifically thoroughly, is there any key features? Any, I don't know if the proper term, because I'm not a fashionista, but as everybody knows, is there different types of cuts, and how should the suit be fit to the driver?
All drivers are different. Some drivers like a slimmer, more couture type of fit, right? They
Hmm.
want, to really accentuate, their body in that respect.
Hmm.
And then you have the guys like, like Jacques Villeneuve, right? He liked a really baggy suit. So it really kind of depends on personal preference, quite honestly. Most of our product is going to have stretch panels in it, full floating arms. It's going to have the epaulettes that are used as extraction
Hmm.
points as well. So it's, all the suits kind of have the same DNA in, so to speak. But it really just kind of depends what you're comfortable in. I tell people, try on different suits. You may like the way one thing's cut,
Right.
and you may not like the way another is. And if you can't find anything that you like, or you have a specific type of, build, we do offer a full custom made to measure program as well.
Oh, well, that may be necessary because I used to play volleyball and now I'm shaped like a volleyball. So we may have to do that, but we'll see.
Well, to your point, my wife always says round is a shape. So she tells me.
Yes, I've got curves, baby. Um, so I guess, is there kind of a projected lifespan, since we were joking around earlier about how long these last and when they should be replaced? It's not just when the certification runs out, but sometimes, in the case of actually using, in the case of a fire, I would think you'd need to replace it. But are there some type of guidelines you could give our audience for
Yeah,
replacement?
I mean, the standard now is, quote unquote, 10 years, right? That's what both the FIA and, is the 10-year sort of mark. Um, without getting into myself in a corner, right? I was personally, I usually buy a new suit every 3 to 4 years. Obviously the guys that are doing more of the pro stuff, they get a new suit every year. And it really depends on use and care, right? I mean, I tell people you wouldn't go out on 3 to 4 year old tires and expect to have a good performance. It'd probably be smart to apply that to a racing suit. And in my formula that I use for myself is 5 to 6 weekends a year. I usually look at a new suit every 3 to 4 years.
Okay. And does it matter how much or how you care for or clean the suit?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing, right? I mean, the reality of it is the aromatic fibers and the Nomex don't like UV and they don't like sun, right? And
Hmm.
I've find this, in the US here, a lot of drivers, particularly in amateur level sports, they get out of the car, they kind of drop the top of the suit and they're cruising around the paddock or they're working on their car, things like that. I tell people, a suit is meant to be raced in, not to be worn around, the paddock, not to be used as, overalls when you're working on the car. When you get out of the car, get out of the suit, flip the suit inside out, hang it up in your trailer, keep it out of the sun, and it's going to protect the fibers, and their bill and their makeup,
Hmm.
and as well as just kind of the treatment, right? I tell people, and this is going to be a plug for Molecule here. When you get a new suit, pre-treat it in Molecule and make sure you wash it, in Molecule. Keep it away from detergents. Don't dry clean it, and keep it out of the sun is the most important thing.
Okay, so the internet referred care and maintenance plan of Woolite inside out is not your preferred method.
No, I mean, Woolite works great, right? You want to use a very mild detergent, in a cold wash. Honestly, I wash my suits by hand. I don't, I don't throw them in a washing machine. I wash them and I let them soak a little bit, and I try kind of just flip them inside out, and I let them dry just naturally in the house that way.
Okay, so subject to actually using the suit to protect you from fire, if it's used in a, let's call there a fire exposure situation, would that be time for replacement there? Is it a one event?
Absolutely, I would not reuse a suit that has been exposed to fire and temperature and things like that.
Okay.
That material, regardless of the manufacturer, is always breaking down, right? And the biggest contributor to that is the UV. We have a lot of chemicals in the air where it's the fuel, oils, things like that at the track, and all that stuff, breaks down the material. It acts to break it down.
Sure. So moving to our little feet. There's several different types of shoes that I've seen. There's several different types of instruction. There's even different materials of construction. Is there a philosophy that Alpinestars goes with that they're happy about, or
Well, I mean, shoes, I'd like to think are our mainstay, and I think we're the best at that. Our company was founded building motocross boots over 55 years ago. Uh,
Mhm.
so we're very proud of our shoe business. Whether it's entry level or top of the line, there's a wide variety of shoes that a driver can find themselves in, below the $200 price point up to the mid 400s. Really kind of depends on what you're looking at. Again, same model, right? Racing shoes are meant to be raced in, and they're not meant to be walking around in the paddock. Get out of the car, get the shoes off, throw your flip flops on or your sneakers. These shoes are not built to take the abuse of walking around a lot and putting miles on them throughout the day. I mean, they're meant for a specific task, and they perform at that level very well.
And we learned that in case of a race in the rain, do not take them to a commercial dryer and put your shoes in. That didn't go well.
Yeah, no, if you get them wet, just let them dry on their own.
Yep, that we found that out real fast and bought another pair of shoes the next day. It was fantastic. Same situation with replacement. If they're exposed to any type of heat, just consider it they've done their job and get some new ones.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, safety equipment is meant to perform at a certain level for a certain amount of time. It's not a buy once and forget about it type of approach, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
If you is showing signs of wear, then you use your head, replace it. I see guys walking around the paddock and their shoes have holes in them, and it's like they're wearing them just for the sake of wearing them. And that's not the approach you want to take. Doesn't mean you have to buy them every weekend, but I would say, one time a year, if you're, like I said, doing 5-7 events, and they're starting to show some wear, trying to replace, it's a consumable item. It's not something that lasts forever.
Nope, definitely not. Is there a difference in the soles or the construction materials that you have a preference
Yeah,
for?
so we have everything from suede to bovine leather to reinforced soles. Like our SP shoe is a great entry level shoe. It's got a specific lacing system. It's a lot of it is the shoe construction, the ankle support, the heel, the top of the line. The more expensive the shoe or the more top of the line shoe, the more high tech it becomes.
And then I'm not sure if Alpinestars has any solutions for this, but we were looking for one that would be useful for. We need to be dressed in the appropriate safety shoes and suit and full helmet and everything. Is there a pit crew type option, or are they all strictly driving?
No, absolutely. We do make a pit crew shoe. It's an FIA specific shoe. So it has the 8856/2018 rating. It's called the Radar. And that's actually a shoe that was developed in WRC for co-drivers because they needed more ankle support and needed more of a sole to wear. And it's been adopted by teams in endurance racing throughout the world, as well as NASCAR.
Okay, cool. Because we were looking for those because, as you said, walking around the paddock is not the driver's shoe, especially in wet environments, because it's endurance racing. If it gets wet, you race in the rain. So we didn't like walking around in our nice driving shoes. So we were looking for a solution for that for our team. So we'll be buying some of those shortly. We've got a couple more minutes of your window. I had a couple questions related to gloves, if we could.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm pretty good on time right now, so
okay.
I think I can.
So as far as the gloves go, they have the same fire rating needs. So probably in a tougher geometry, because there's not a lot of protection of the hand. But we've seen gloves that have seams on the inside and seams on the outside. Is there a reason for that?
Mostly feel and comfort. A lot of the higher end gloves will have sort of the outside stitch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just because drivers want better comfort. They're not feeling the abrasion of an inside seam per se. But then again, to that point, I have drivers that like internally stitched glove, and they don't have any problems with it. So
sure,
we do offer both. The higher end stuff is definitely outside stitched, and it seems to be the most popular.
Okay, and then there seems to be the often discussed characteristic of the glove, which is the surface being either like a smooth, I'll call it nylon, but it's probably not nylon, or like a suede, which again is probably not just a suede, but and then the interaction of that with the steering wheel. I've heard some stories that I'm not quite sure are factual, but is there a reason for the differences besides driver preference?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that we're always, as drivers, at least we're fighting, right? And it's getting feedback, and any layers you put between yourself and or the steering wheel, right, are going to affect that amount of feedback. The secondary thing, breathability, sweat. But our gloves, are made of a Nomex type material. They have a fire resistant silicone lining on them, and you'll find most of the newer stuff will have that. And in that silicone, we'll find anti-dampening properties. So you're not getting all the feedback sort of, into your joints, right? And there's always that fine line, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of the pro guys, if they could have a glove that was, as thin as your skin, just to put it over, but had the protection, they would take it, right? So gloves are really tough. We're always fighting that, right? The thicker the glove, the less feedback, and then the better the protection. So it's just that fine line we always walk.
Well, I want everything, and I want it for free, and I want it yesterday, right? It's
that's how it all works, right?
Exactly. So a couple more glove questions.
Sure.
I was told very early on that the smooth glove is made to work on the let's call it the suede type steering wheel, and vice versa. The suede-ish looking glove is made for the smooth steering wheel. Is that anything besides somebody saying stuff in the paddock?
I've never heard of that, quite honestly.
Okay. All right, very well. And then we had a race. It was 31 degrees and raining. Don't know why it wasn't snowing, but it was raining. And we could not come up with a decent solution for driving in the rain. So your hands are getting cold and getting wet. Is there a solution? We had one friend of ours whose solution was to wear blue nitrile gloves underneath their race gloves. I said that's probably not the best plan, but is there something available for that particular situation, or you just kind of suck it up and deal?
I think you just have to suck it up and deal with it. I mean, I've raced in, in frigid temperatures and wet gloves, and I think I just forget about it. Right, once the adrenaline gets pumping, you kind of forget about a lot of things.
Exactly. You get out of the car and then you end up having like a claw instead of a hand for a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's okay. Well, potentially a profit center for you in the future. Maybe we could come up with something very nice on that area. And then last question for the evening to respect your window. Karting seems to have different suits than, let's say, GT cars. Is there a reason for that besides potentially price or size? Because some of the cars
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the suits, their construction, the technology, and kind of the methodology behind the suits is completely different, right? In particular auto racing, we're in a relatively enclosed cockpit, even if you're in an open cockpit car, and you're sort of fighting that the fire, right, risk. In karting, not so much the fire risk, but the abrasion resistance, right? So the suits are made from a different material and they're rated on an abrasion resistance versus obviously being fire retardant.
Okay, so it's it's more or less a more mechanically tougher suit due to the being out in the open.
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
definitely, and that's all. Those standards are set by the FIA in Europe as far as the abrasion resistance.
Okay, and same type of care replacement situation for karting suit.
Yeah, I mean, they're, with the karting stuff, you're going to find more of the nylon and things like that. So they're more resistant to sun fade and things like that. But just like anything else, proper care is critical.
Okay. So our philosophy with our team was, we're budget endurance racers and autocrossers and anything else we can get behind a wheel in and just have a good time. We try and get the most benefit for the least amount of money, but the one corner we'd never cut is safety. Is there any other tips and wisdom that you could say involving safety equipment, especially the stuff that you guys are making?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, in general, I tell people, it doesn't matter if you're buying our brand or another brand, the key and the important, point is the safety, right? So I always tell people, we're all adults, you're participating in a very dangerous sport, whether that's racing or if you're going out for an HPDE. I would advise people to do their research and, have as much protection as they can, right? And put yourself in a position, should something happen, you want to mitigate your risk and obviously have the best chance of survival. And again, that's whether the car has a roll cage or not. I've been, involved in professional racing going on 30 years now. I've had accidents. I've had, spills in cars that didn't have a roll cage because I was doing an HPDE, and I learned very quickly I'd never go out on a racetrack without some sort of rollover protection. But, to your point, I often find, at least stateside, that, people often they lead by the price point, right? And I always say that's not necessarily the smartest thing to do. And I'm not saying you have to go out and buy the most expensive suit there is, but I think if you're, if you kind of take a average or plus or minus of $150 or $200, you can find some really good quality products that are out there. And ultimately they're going to save your life if you get into that position, right? And I tell people, $200, $300 more for a suit, yeah, it may hurt, but it's going to be a lot less than spending a night in a level 3, 4, or 5 trauma center because you've got burns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yep.
or other things. And that goes the same for a helmet, Hans, and belts. But it seems like it's the last thing that's always addressed is the driver safety here. I wish sanctioning bodies, track organizers, instructors would lead with the safety side of things.
Sure. I'm going to have to beg for forgiveness. I've got one more question that I think is important to the audience.
Sure.
It seems like there's a lot of counterfeiting going on, even to the point where people are replicating the holograms. Is there a way, maybe specifically for Alpinestars, but is there a way to tell besides, hey, if it's too good a deal, it's not a good deal?
Yeah, obviously the hologram has a number. If it's an Alpinestars specific product, it's got a specific number to it. You can always email us. Just go to our website. Customer service can help you out. Take a picture of the product. and take a picture of the hologram and send it over to us, and we can verify it. Another good way is obviously buying product from authorized dealers. In North America, there's a lot of people that are selling product, but we can obviously direct someone to an authorized dealer that's going to give you the best information and help you get suited up with the right products. So I would definitely say buyer beware. Amazon, eBay, things like that.
Yep, Alibaba, though, all of them. Yep.
I would definitely stay away from Alibaba. No offense to Alibaba, but I wouldn't be buying Alpinestars products there. That's for sure.
No, it's not a licensed distributor for you guys. Not at this point.
No, not at this point. Nor for the foreseeable future.
Understood. If people want to learn more about Alpinestars or even follow along with your racing and keeping up with your activities, is there a way that they can follow along with either the company or yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can always obviously go to our website, which is alpinestars.com, Instagram at alpinestars. There's always updates to the website, and Instagram is pretty active. We got a great social media team, and you'll be able to see kind of all the sports that we're involved in, both 2-wheel and 4-wheel. So we definitely welcome any interactions. And if I see anyone at the track, or you see me walking around with the red and white Alpinestars shirt, feel free to come up, say hi, and be happy to introduce myself and answer any questions in person. Or if someone has a question specific, you can email me directly. The email address is going to be auto. It's AUTO period US, the numeric 1 at alpinestars.com. Again, that's auto period US1 at alpinestars.com. That comes to me. Happy to address any questions, concerns, or if you need some information finding a local dealer, be happy to help anyone out.
All right, sir. Well, I think we covered a good chunk of information. Perhaps in the future, when you come again to a weakened condition and want to say yes to coming on the podcast, we'll get into your actual driving history. But I do thank you, and I do think that we hopefully have prevented some people from potentially buying either the wrong equipment or potentially prevented them from actually getting hurt while enjoying our fun sport.
Absolutely. Always anything I can do to help the sport grow and get people educated and get more people involved. And, as far as my personal racing, that'll be a short conversation. So it's not as exciting as my job, but I love the sport. And like I said, I grew up with it. So it's always great to share my passion with people. I don't care what you're racing, but, it's the, as they say, it's the carcane addiction, and, we love it. So
exactly.
I've turned a hobby into a lifelong career, so it's been good.
Well, you don't have to be an excellent driver or have excellent racing results to have some excellent stories. So we think you're under clubbing, and perhaps you'll exceed what you're preventing here. So thank you, sir. I do appreciate you spending this evening with us, and we'll get this thing out as quick as we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.